All right, everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome to Caliber Corner, Season 6, episode number 291. Today, we have a special guest with us. We've got Patricia Harrold, the NFOA president and the CEO founder of Incendio Firearms Training that is joining us. Trish, how you doing today? You good?
I'm doing great, Travis. Glad to be here.
So this is your first time on YouTube, right? So you're probably pretty nervous?
No, not at all.
If you guys follow Sandhills Media, John over there, Trisha's been on that show many times. I've been on that show with them, and Trisha's pretty much a veteran at the whole YouTube podcasting thing. So we're going to talk to you today a little bit about your involvement with NFOA and Incendio training and what you have to offer. And just, again, we've been featuring a lot of Nebraskans lately, except for that guy sitting down there, Gizzard Gary from Kansas. But it's just been fun having a chance to interview guests and stuff, and it's something we haven't done much. So Trish, we'll get back to you in just a moment. We'll let you tell us all about you, and we'll go into the questions, and we'll get started. So, Gary, how you doing today? Oh, Gary, you're muted, buddy.
I suppose I should unmute.
I think you said off camera, but yeah.
No.
Yes, sir.
Anyway, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
So, Gary, when can people find you doing your live podcast? What do you have to offer? What do you
That'll
got?
be Friday evenings at 9 o'clock p.m. Central Time Zone, which is, of course, the only time zone that matters. And that's,
absolutely.
That's called Foul Territory. We do that every Friday. And hopefully, people can come by and check it out. We'd love to have you.
Heck yeah, absolutely, man. It's good stuff. It's a Central Time Zone. It's in the center. Everything revolves around us. So, that's right. It's the most important one. We're the easiest people to understand in this country. So, yeah, there we go. All right, and also joining us out on the YouTube side, we've got Two Live Moo and Defense Dad out there. We got a lot more people that'll be joining in as they sneak out for that 15-minute break to join us, or they're on their way home. But Trish, we're going to go ahead and get started. So we're just going to, I don't want to take up too much of your time. I know you're a very busy person, but I want to thank you for being on the show. So thanks for being here, and I'm glad we can make this work with your schedule. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Very cool. Very cool. So Trish, why don't we just start off? Tell us about your background. Where are you from? Any LEO or military experience? What should people know about you? Yeah.
So I grew up in California before it lost its mind.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right.
And my means of escape was joining the United States Air Force. So I served during the global war on terror times, and I was an Arabic linguist. So I spent most of my time in the sandbox, helping to find the bad guys and making sure our good guys stay safe. Truly enjoyed that time in service. And that's actually what brought me here to Nebraska. Offutt Air Force Base happened to be my last duty station. And I absolutely fell in love with the state and could not ever imagine leaving it. So definitely grown roots here, raised my family here. And actually, I'm still connected to the military as a civilian. I oversee aircrew training. Our contract at Offutt has a mix of different contractors who help support writing the courseware and doing all the instruction for aviators that fly the different aircraft at Offutt Air Force Base.
Oh, wow. That is awesome. So then do you have any like flight experience? I know you did the linguist thing, but did you ever do any kind of airline training or flight training or anything like that at all?
So we were backenders is what we call ourselves. Basically, the aircraft mission depended on us being on the aircraft. I love our flight deck brethren, but the joke was they were our bus drivers. And the mission happened in the back. And so I'm proud to say now, though, we oversee, all the aircrew positions. So from flight deck to backenders to maintenance and for all the aircraft. So we have the RC-135s, Rivet Joint, Cobra Ball, Combat Scent. And then if you're familiar with the big, looks kind of a little bit like Air Force One, but it isn't. It's the E-4B, command and control aircraft. So all the different aircrew positions there. But the only time I was up in the cockpit was actually my first flight. It's kind of part of the morale thing to see what happens up there. And so that was pretty cool. Got to do some air refueling and what have you.
Oh, cool. So growing up, then you said growing up in California before it lost its mind, we hear there's this big debate, is California a lost cause when it comes to gun rights and firearms and so on? And you hear from people that live there that say, like 75, 80% of the state is pro-gun. It's the 20%. How does that sound familiar to Nebraska that is not pro 2A, that's not pro firearms? What was your experience with firearms looking at what you do now? What was your experience with firearms growing up as a kid? Just
Oh God, none.
none. Okay, all
None,
right.
nothing whatsoever.
You went surfing,
Yeah, I was a skateboard Betty.
Okay.
So I do a lot of skateboarding and
Oh, cool.
surfing and camping. And Northern California is a beautiful part of the state, but you're 100% right. There is a small, highly dynamic population, very concentrated in, the Silicon Valley, LA areas.
Yeah.
And those, unfortunately, are what everyone thinks California is. But really, California is far more like Nebraska in many ways. Agriculture is huge in our state. And as far as gun rights, some of the most amazing 2A activists come out of that state. And there's a lot of 2A activity, as well as just enjoyment of firearms in California. But unfortunately, it's just all about the population and who votes one way or the other. And so I say it's a lost cause from the perspective of just how the districting works and how elections happen. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, we'll have to see how voting goes as time goes on, if things change or people change, or, because it's one of those things that we always have an argument on is, is this something that we should bail on or not? Then I've got family actually that lives back in California. Oh, they live around, I believe, the Monterey area. And but I've also got family that kind of live up in the northern part too, and they do own firearms for protection and also protection from animals, two-legged and otherwise. But yeah. So it's always kind of interesting talking to them because they come here to Nebraska and they get a chance to use our firearms and stuff. Because I got a family member that has land and we'll do some shooting and such. And they can't believe how much more, freedom and flexibility we have here in Nebraska. It kind of blows their mind when they come visit.
Definitely. I went to the range once with my brother, and the fact that you cannot walk out of the range with the ammo you purchased from the range. I
get it if you're walking out of a bar with like a beer in your hand that you bought in the bar. I get that. Like the open container law. It's like an open ammo box law. It's like, correct. What?
I know.
Jeez. So, oh my gosh. So then growing up in the home, you had said that you didn't grow up in with firearms. What about your parents? Did your family have any firearms at all? Did your mom or dad have any firearms? Or
I'm a first generation American. My father's from Argentina.
Yeah.
And so firearms were, for hunting. So he had a lot of hunting experience.
Okay.
And, augmenting your grocery bill was a huge part of his life. But when he immigrated to the United States, that was not part of his life. I handled a firearm for the first time in basic training, which is not the best place to learn how to shoot.
No, because, a lot of guys that are successful in the military and gals, they have grown up deer hunting with dad or mom or having basic firearms handling abilities, and then to just go. So how'd that go for you? How was it? Was it terrifying?
It was fun. I will say that I purposely stayed on the far right side of the line.
Okay.
So that I only had to worry about the people to my left.
Okay.
Because, we're all 18, 19-year-old folks have no idea what their experience was.
Yeah.
And we were under a lot of stress. So
okay.
I thought, hey, let's just be safe. I'll keep my eye on them. And I know where to dive if I need to.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Oh my gosh. So that's kind of quite the learning curve you had to go through once you got there, once you were training and stuff. Okay. And then, so I met you through John, and also, NFOA, seeing you pop up on the NFOA website, Nebraska Firearms Owners Association. So then how did you end up with NFOA? Like, what was it did you just happen to show up at one meeting one time, or did you decide you wanted to be a part of this because you wanted to do more for the state? Because NFOA, it's not like there's people just crawling out of the woodwork to help NFOA. We've got a lot of people that want to support events, but not actually be on the board or participate.
Sure.
So what is it that brought you in NFOA?
So just to quickly summarize, I decided as an adult to be a gun owner after I was widowed. So at 37 years of age, I lost my husband, and I had two little ones at home. And shortly thereafter, had some things that made me not feel safe. And so I started exploring, home protection, safety, alarms, what have you. And I had a really good friend that worked at Offutt with me who took me to the range.
Okay.
And had a bunch of different firearms to try. And I had a blast. It was super fun.
Oh, yeah.
But it was also empowering. Even though I was not good at shooting. I was not good at shooting. I was still proud of those holes. I made those holes. They were mine. And I still have that target today. I still have it. And So I went and I took like an NRA basic pistol class, and then I took it again with my son, and then I took a concealed carry, and so I was just beginning to get familiar with the whole lifestyle of being a personal first responder and self-defender. And a couple of years later, after I had put my toe in the dating pool, which as an adult that's a whole nother story.
Oh, I know. We'll do a podcast on that next week. Yeah.
I met a gentleman. It was a blind date, and we sat down, and the first questions that we asked each other was, what do you do for a living? So we talked about that.
Yeah.
And then his second question was, what do you think about guns? And I had been on a lot of dates by then, and I just was so like put off by that question. Like, that's so strange. So I figured, well, why not be honest? I have nothing to lose. And I said, well, I'm carrying right now. So, then his eyes lit up, and we started talking about guns and firearms and, my experience. And he is the reason I actually found NFOA. And so he was a member.
Okay.
And he took me to the first annual meeting in 2014.
Okay.
I had been a member for 4 months.
Okay.
And so we go to this annual meeting. They have this awesome event out in Grand Island. And at that time, they were doing a call for nominations and candidates to run for the board. And I'm sitting there eating my pulled pork sandwich, and I get an elbow in the ribs, and I look at him and he says, you should put your name in the hat. And I said, are you crazy? I said, I'm really probably considered a baby gun owner. I don't think so.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, you'd be fabulous. Because I had some nonprofit board experience or whatever. So I stood up in front of these like 150 members and put my name in the hat, and strangely got voted in. And all of a sudden I am knee deep in 2A activism. And so at that time I decided it would be very smart if I chose to be the secretary. I figured if I could offer anything to the 2A movement, I can take good notes. And so I did. And that was fantastic because I got to learn everything, so low pressure on me, got to understand about our legislative process, what NFOA does, how we do it. And it was fantastic. And we had some really amazing board members at that time who they took me under their wing and really showed me the ropes.
Well, and, not just, you talk about getting into it and just learning how the whole process works. And there's also, you have to learn how to communicate with people, and you have to know who to communicate with. Myself serving on our local teacher association as a building rep, and then as a secretary at one point, and then a vice president, and then a president of our local, it helps build your confidence if you get a chance to go through instead of just jumping right to the top. And so what I've noticed with you, the way that you've approached the legislature and the conversations and stuff, you're very refined about your approach, very logical explanations. It seems like you're able to clearly communicate things with people. And I think that's what makes you a good leader for NFOA, for Nebraska Firearms Owners Association, after watching, the LB77 testimonies and just talking to you in general. So, and then what is the term for that? Just, is it a 1-year term or is it a 2-year term?
We serve 2-year terms.
Okay.
So 2014 to 16, I was secretary.
Okay.
And at that time, found out that the current president at that time decided that he really wanted me to run for president. So,
cool.
Our board has, board positions. We have board functions, board titles, but we're very flat, the hierarchy, if you will. We absolutely need each other. We work really collaboratively together.
Yeah.
And so, the title of president or vice president or director of media, while I lead the organization, I see myself more as a facilitator.
Okay.
Bringing people together, using their talents in the best way that makes a difference for our members. But everyone has the same voice, if you will, both at the board level and at a membership level.
Yeah, I think people need to understand that NFOA, unlike a lot of other gun rights organizations that are out there, NFOA is nonprofit. I mean, it's you guys, the operating budget is, what is it, just strictly off donations? There's no...
It's 100% donations.
Yeah, there's no membership fee. Anybody can join, but if you want to vote, you have to be a Nebraska resident, I think is the only catch, right?
Correct.
But anybody can join the organization to represent the numbers if they want to, Yeah. That's pretty cool. Here, we'll take just a moment here and let my cousin to the east, I call him that, American Hillbilly over in Missouri is joining us. So, hey, American Hillbilly, how you doing? What's up?
Hey, buddy, what's happening?
Well, we're doing good. I appreciate you joining us today. How are things going in your neck of the woods?
Oh man, they're going fine as frogs here.
All right, all right. Yeah.
Sorry I'm late. I've been listening on my phone. I was trying to hurry up and get home to get on here in time, so I've been listening. Great stuff here. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, if you or Gary have any questions at all for Trish, just let me know. Trish is the president of the Nebraska Firearms Owners Association, and she's also an instructor and trainer with Incendio Training, which we'll talk about here in a little bit.
Awesome.
So yeah, if you got questions for her, just chime in, let me know. Just you can put it on the private chat if you want, or you can just just say, hey, I got a question if you want to, and that's good. So yeah.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you, buddy.
Cool. Appreciate having you on the show. So good deal. And then Gary, do you have any questions right now at all for Trish while we're talking? Anything kind of curious about her background or her involvement with NFOA?
I can't really think of anything other than I'm glad she stepped up. Sounds like the right person stepped in and took the challenge and got right up front and led the way. Sometimes that's what it takes is somebody who didn't know they had the calling, to all of a sudden be thrust into a leadership role and find out, hey, I can do this. So I think it's good. I can't speak for all Kansans, but I certainly support you guys all the way. And look forward to you guys getting your constitutional carry and all of that stuff. So you too can enjoy the freedom.
I'll tell you, every time I go to Texas to visit family, it's like, as soon as I get to Kansas and Oklahoma, it's like, and I got a carry permit anyway, but it's just like, isn't this nice? I wonder what this would be like if we're able to pull this off. And sure enough, we got LB77 to go through, and we'll talk about LB77 in a little bit, but the amount of time and effort and energy, I can't even imagine what it took on the part of NFOA to make that happen, because just the communications and the emails. And I mean, the thing is, you guys, because it's a nonprofit, I mean, these are not paid positions. You guys all have regular jobs. You've got careers, you've got families. You're not just in that position and that's all you do all day, every day, How much time would you say you put into NFOA, just say weekly or monthly? Is it a pretty big time investment for you?
So it's cyclical. So about 2 months before the legislative sessions, it's certainly starting to ramp up. You're looking at 10, 15 hours a week. During the legislative session, we're sustaining 10 to 15 up to 20. And what I mean by that is I have a lot of flexibility, which is awesome in my job. And so, I'm taking phone calls, I'm getting on podcasts, I'm getting on the news, doing Zoom for interviews. I'm writing our newsletter. I have a great staff who does a fantastic job during the day job. And that gives me a lot more time during the day than maybe most full-time folks.
Yeah.
And then just an extraordinary team. So, you talked about John Anderson.
Yep.
We have Nate Griffith, Aaron Wallen, and we have Joe Goebel and Keith Kolash. So those are our board members, and they each bring something unique to the team and really worked it hard. I would say the volume of labor this last legislative session probably was the most I'd seen.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it definitely took a lot. Speaking of John, we got Sandhills Media out there chiming in. He says that Senator Brewer's office said constitutional carry should take effect September 2nd. So there you go. If you haven't figured out what your next carry piece is going to be, you might want to start doing some research. Go watch a Hillbilly video or a Gizzard Gary video or a Travis P11 video, and then go get some training with Trish over there at Incendio, and you're going to be all set. So cool.
Yeah, you can put away that rock and sharp stick now and carry something else.
Well, no. I'd rather have a high point instead of a sharp stick. I can tell you that. So Defense Dad says I'm just a gun bunny for the NFOA. That's right. You're the mascot, Defense Dad. You're the mascot.
Absolutely is our favorite gun bunny.
I thought that was Tony. Well, hold on a second. We're going to have Tony's in a different time zone, so it doesn't count, right?
And that's the thing. So Defense Dad is Nebraska. He's
Yes. That's
so
right.
So as far as outside the state, then definitely Tony. Yeah.
There we go. Sandhill says you got that right. Trish is the glue that holds the NFOA together. So, yep. Awesome.
I can see that.
Just call me Elmer.
Yeah, there you go. I've always liked the pace better. It always tasted better. But Sandhill says, I always reinvest my NFOA salary back into the organization. I'm awesome like that. So.
He is. And he's in charge of our 401k. He's done great. It's been very stable.
That's right. It's just been kind of a flat, it's been, yeah. Crazy stuff. Oh man. All right. So we'll talk about LB77 here in just a little bit. We'll kind of get into that whole process and what it took from start to finish. Because there's a lot of states. We still have 23 states that don't have constitutional carry yet. That
Yep.
they could probably take a page out of our learning curve and see what it took to make that happen. I think that if they want to make it happen, it's gonna, some places I don't know if they're ever gonna get it. And so let's talk about Incendio. Let's talk about Incendio Firearms Training. First of all, the name, the icon, the dragon. Where does all this come from? Where does it? Because Incendio looks like a Spanish word to me, and I don't know if I know anything about Spanish, but you know.
Well, the beautiful part about the name is it has a lot of meaning for me, and a lot of folks who set up their own business, that's something that they spend a lot of time thinking through. What are they going to call themselves? And so for me, Incendio, basically it's Latin, and it means fire. Okay. And when you think about fire was the first defense that we as humans had, back in the caveman days when we were defending ourselves against the mastodons and saber-toothed tigers and other folks in caves, right? That's what we had, sharp sticks and fire. But fire also brings light and warmth, right? It sustains life, it protects life. And so that's kind of the meaning behind Incendio. And then, of course, I mean, who doesn't like a dragon? So that was the part of that. So
that's cool. So then we're just looking over. So where do you mainly operate out of? Do you have one primary range that you operate out of, where people would take these classes if they're curious? So
I actually travel quite a bit. So I am
down
here in Cass County. I have some private ranges I can go to. There are some standard places like Athena Arms in Bellevue. They're very, very accommodating for us individual instructors. I've done work at Frontier Justice. I've done work at not Inter 10, but the Marksman in Waterloo. I've done some training out in Heartland Shooting Park in Grand Island. And then my hands-on firearm training, I've done go to Shields.
Oh, okay.
And then also just the standard renting a big hotel conference room and doing work there. So from Lincoln all the way up to Sioux City. So I go up to Sioux City. So really eastern and Nebraska, western Iowa.
What blew my mind is when I took that NRA pistol instructors course, we had to do a budget. One of our activities, we had to put together like a monthly budget to see what the capital was going to take to start up an instruction and what it was going to take to and it, you see some of these places, these trainers that'll charge, $500, $600, $700. But when you look at the cost, the out-of-pocket cost, it just blows my mind. Unless you have your own range, there are so many other factors that get thrown in there. There's the insurance part of it. There's the hiring of additional instructors. There's liability. There's the media, the advertising. It would basically have to be a full-time business if I was going to do something like that. So to be able to even run it on the side just kind of blows my mind that people are actually able to pull it off, because just taxes alone on it would just be be insane. So does that part, is that part of it, keeping it running and stuff, that's your full-time job, right? does it take a lot for you to do that, or do you have it kind of a good balance now of just kind of making that part of your day? Yeah.
In the beginning, it's definitely, a mountain to climb, Travis. You're 100% right.
Yeah.
For independent contractors or independent instructors who don't have a relationship as like a primary person in a range or that kind of thing. Luckily, I've grown a few different businesses over time. So the infrastructure for running a business, I'm familiar with. I'm also a training counselor with the United States Concealed Carry Association. And as a TC, one of my roles is to help other instructors be successful. And so USCCA has provided me a ton of resources, information, guidance, that kind of thing. And all of I call them my instructor candidates, the folks who have gone through me to get their certification. I'm their range mom. So what that means is I'm not done with them after I've certified them. I'm there to support them, help them launch. And when you work in a collaborative way, right, in a non-competing way, then really good ideas from one instructor candidate can help another instructor candidate. And so I'm sort of like a clearinghouse of information and processes and what have you. And I've done a lot of work to what we do, launch instructors. So folks who are just starting out, they don't know the first thing about setting up a class and insurance and range and whatever. I do a lot of co-teaching. So we'll go in together and I'll support them.
Yeah, I'd mentioned one thing I'd like to do is just myself. I went through NRA, but still, just getting the shadowing experience of being there as operating as an RSO and seeing how the class runs from start to finish, and then how the curriculum's integrated, and some really cool ideas that you can borrow from other instructors to make part of your own curriculum, because there's so many cool different ways you can explain things to people that it seems like you're always learning something new.
Yeah. The one thing that I do have that is an advantage, I'll be blunt. So training and education. So that's my wheelhouse. That's my profession. I've been doing it since 1993.
Okay.
So the way adults learn, the science and learning, the psychological, emotional, physiological, all the, what I call the nerdy stuff, is something I can, speak to just off the cuff, like about anything. So when I take all those different areas of expertise that I have that help me oversee making sure our pilots know how to land effectively and know how to AR effectively and know how to take, emergency procedures and handle those under stressful conditions and still perform, all that knowledge for how we do the training for the Air Force, I've applied to my firearms education.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah. I have a kind of a more formal way of designing my courses and my range time and my drills. Everything is what we call objectives based, has a purpose, a learning function. But on top of it, it is the psychology of learning, really understanding my clients. So knowing the fears, the emotions, the physical reactions people are going to have as they're beginning to learn how to shoot, and being really accommodating to those unique factors has been a big part of my success. And your customers, your clients are your best commercials. And so what ends up happening, you train a few people, and then all of a sudden those people are sharing, hey, I had this great experience with Incendio. I really loved working with Trish. She totally changed my outlook on my ability to, hit a bullseye. And they end up being all you need for marketing. And I'm not investing in a lot of commercials or social media and, sponsored posts.
Seems like a Facebook page and maybe some Instagram is really what a person can do to reach the masses, because that's what people use, since there's a few platforms that don't like us, like TikTok and stuff like that. But that's unfortunately what so many people use. But still, that's a nice part of it. So as I'm looking over your classes, you offer individual instruction, and I mean, you've got a nice, well-rounded kind of catalog of classes that you offer, revolvers for beginners, handgun fundamentals, NRA basics of pistol shooting, firearms 101. When I had gotten into making gun videos on YouTube, firearms videos, 7 or 8 years ago, I really could have used a lot of that, because I basically just kind of taught myself to shoot and then had my concealed carry class. And then after that, I took a couple defensive pistol classes, and then I felt so much more comfortable with the firearm. So I think a person can really benefit from it. And as we get closer to constitutional carry passing in Nebraska, we had talked about this before we started today. Are you starting to see people kind of come out of the woodwork and numbers increasing a little bit, and people that want basic instruction? What are you noticing over the last couple months now that it's passed?
So 2 things I'm going to comment. I need to update my classes because it's expanded.
Oh, wow. There you go. Well, hey, I'm glad we can get that message out there for people. So yeah.
So everything from, introductory, basic fundamentals, revolvers, handguns, rifles, shotguns, those kinds of things. But taking it up to, more advanced defensive pistol techniques and strategies, and understanding the difference between marksmanship and defensive shooting, and applying the law and scenarios so that your performance has context. What I've noticed is there's been a very, very big increase in what I call the gateway instructor opportunity. So folks who just want to learn what is a trigger guard, what is a backstrap, what are all these terms, and the vocabulary of firearms can be really daunting. So there's a great growth in the brand new shooter.
Yeah.
And then the second group that I see the most are, and this is interesting because this was kind of unforeseen, so many people are wanting refreshers. So there's the folks I've been open carrying in Western Omaha or Western Nebraska for my life. And, I never thought about it, but I probably should know the law.
Yeah.
Right. So doing more of like a constitutional carry or legal use of force, those kinds of modules are becoming quite popular.
I think we need that education, just because that's my biggest fear is going to be the first time that somebody pulls a gun on somebody, it's going to make it on social media. Look what constitutional carry is doing to Nebraska. It's turning into the OK Corral. It's turning, I mean, that's what scares me is people are going to get hot headed and they're going to pull guns over parking spots. Now, the trend in general, we don't see that in general in states that pass constitutional carry, but I'm worried about the negative press that could come from it, because that's one of 100,000 people that are carrying firearms in Nebraska. So what is NFOA doing or working on to help educate the masses? What have you guys been doing? Because that was part of the questioning is, what's NFOA going to do for Nebraskans so they can learn the law, which is ridiculous because you should learn the law on your own. You need to be, when we learned how to drive, we read the manual and took the test, right? I can't just say, oh, I didn't know I could go 100. I couldn't go 155. You can't use those excuses when it comes to firearms. So what have you been doing with NFOA to educate the masses?
So we have undertaken an initiative to create an online learning platform that addresses every single concept that was included in the standard state concealed handgun permit course that people can actually take for free in a modularized fashion. So rather than, sitting down and paying $100 to $125 to sit through, 6 hours of academics and maybe an hour of range time to get the permit, now that we're having constitutional carry go into effect September 2nd, we still want people to be informed and educated. And so we have a team of folks who are designing and creating online learning. So this will be free to the public. You can take the course anonymously. There's going to be basically a general user ID and password for anyone to take any of the modules. However, if you want to get a certificate for accomplishing,
upon completion, that would be nice.
If you want, there's quizzes, there's exams, so people know did they get it right.
Yeah.
If you complete each module, there'll be a certificate for each module. However, you need to be an NFOA member, and the reason why we decided that was necessary was things change all the time, and so we don't want people taking our online learning, say in 2023. And 4 years later, not be informed about some changes in the law. And the best way to stay informed about 2A or firearms laws in Nebraska is just to be a member of the Nebraska Firearm Owners Association. Yeah. Membership is free. We don't share your information. You'll get a newsletter if there's something to tell you. If there's nothing to tell you, I'm not going to waste my time writing a newsletter.
I really appreciated the updates I was getting on LB 77 because I'm trying to keep up with it. I've got a regular job. I'm pushing 40, 50 hours a week in my job. And then to get the email updates on where things are going and what we need to be doing was really helpful, especially when it was crunch time, when we needed people to show up, when we needed to get the word out there. We had places where we could let people know that this is coming up. I mean, it really was nice, but you guys also don't oversaturate us. Like, I'm not going to rip on the NRA, okay, but I did join because as an instructor, I do get some benefits from it and so on. But the emails I was getting from them was like 3 or 4 a day. And so I did unsub from them. I'm like, look, this is important stuff, but I don't like blowing up my phone. I'd have 8 to 10 NRA emails in 24 hours on my phone. With NFOA, it's just when it's the most important stuff. And I think that's something that people need to know if they sign up for it. Yeah.
I think that's been a part of our strategy for a long time. Members know if they receive something from us, it's worth reading. Okay. Which obviously saves us time too as volunteers. We're not having to oversaturate one of our board members with crafting a newsletter every other day. The other part I think that we do a really good job is to distill all of the information into more knowledgeable, easier to understand chunks.
Manageable chunks.
Yeah. If you read, you could read a bill and not understand what the heck it's about. Yeah. So part of our surge during legislative season, it's basically the first 10 days is all the bills are introduced. So several of us are sitting there on the internet watching each one get introduced. So we know which ones we need to go read. We read them, we interpret them and put them into normal speak.
There you go. That makes it easy. And then plus you guys have the NFOA channel on YouTube where you've posted, you've had good interviews with was it Dick Clark? Is that right?
Yeah. Dick Clark. We've had Senator Brewer. We've had many of the key
Sandhills
players
has been on there.
Yeah. He does a great job. bringing, that information directly to the people in a way they can ask questions. Like
Mhm.
one of the reasons why like these YouTube podcasts are so awesome is the people drive the discussion. So someone tends to always, every time, ask a question no one's asked.
Yeah.
Right. And that has been fantastic because we've been able to delve down into areas that really needed that clarification. And that's why I love this kind of format.
And it also kind of holds everybody accountable, because when that question pops up, you can't say, Trish, thank you very much for asking me that question. And then you don't answer it. Like we see so often in our own representatives in Senate, they don't ever answer the questions. They'll duck around it, but they never answer the freaking questions. And so
I know.
your question's there. I can put it up on the screen. You can address it, answer it. Sometimes it's not the answer people want to hear, but that's just how it is,
Yeah, I think last year, John and I undertook a interviewing of candidates project. Boy, that took a lot of time, but it was awesome because these were questions our members wanted to ask elected officials who were running for city council, state senate, and what have you. And you had to answer. You're live.
Yeah.
And it's getting recorded. And
yeah.
And so that was really, really helpful because it helped me learn about certain candidates that I didn't actually know they had that area of expertise or, had that position on 2A issues. And so that was really informative. And that's, the benefit of being a member.
It's cool. Looking at your catalog of classes over here on Incendio, firearms for the non-participant. I have never seen that before on any other training website. What is that all about? Why don't you tell us about it? Because I find that because I understand, a lot of the other classes, but yeah.
Absolutely. So I have worked with hundreds upon hundreds of women, as well as I'd say a good chunk of men.
Okay.
Who their partner is the gun owner and they're not.
Okay.
And or the guy who wants to, bring a firearm into the home for home defense, and the wife is like, no, I'm putting my foot down. I don't want guns in my house. And it comes from the perspective of the unknown is scary. And so that particular course is to provide them just enough information so they understand how a firearm operates and how it's an inert object when it's not loaded in the hands of an individual. And so proper storage, proper means of unloading, those kinds of things. And so it takes the unknown, makes it known, makes that person feel a little bit more comfortable about being able to make informed decisions about how they're going to store that firearm. And in the event, like something goes down, like say in the house, and the wife is the gun owner and she is injured, right? And that husband has to pick up that firearm. That's kind of the level that those individuals are keen to learn, like what ifs kind of thing. And so it's not for everyone. It's for a particular market. And I've had a lot of success with that.
What's funny is as we talk about, getting closer to kickoff for constitutional carry for Nebraska, it's been mainly ladies that have been approaching me, asking me to take them to the range because they want to learn how to shoot, or they've got this gun and don't know how to use it. And the funny part is the husbands, not ripping on the husbands, but they're okay with the guns in the house, but the ladies want a tool to protect the children. They're the ones taking the initiative, and it's blown my mind. It's been out of the last 4 out of 5 gals that I've worked with, it's been the ladies that have wanted to practice, to train, to I got this gun. How do I use it? So we'll go to my range, and it's not a training session with me. It's just me shooting with a guest, I'm not taking them through a curriculum or anything. It's just, here's how it operates. This is where you go to get your resources. This is what you need to know. And I'm always telling them, hey, take a beginner pistol class, or go take a introduction to firearms class, or, like we mentioned, Shields, they offer courses for people that they can take. You're at the store, you can take your class right there. They do that in Lincoln. They do that in, was it Papillion or La Vista, where the other Shields is located?
Yeah.
Travis, you sure it's not your strapping good looks all them women asking you?
No. I try to separate the range time from my private time. So it's maybe it's my bottomless supply of ammo, because I always bring the ammo with me, because we've always got cases of ammo sitting around, so we got to go burn it somewhere, right? No, I always make sure we've got, because I never know what somebody's going to show up with. They might have a very finicky firearm, and they might have brought like a case of some surplus ammo that they found in the box with the gun, and it's got water damage on the box. So it's like, okay, what are we bringing to the range? Okay, so let me bring the ammo, and I don't care, because it's better for me to have functional ammo and look the gun over and make sure it's going to be okay. And it's just been an interesting situation just with the number of people I've helped out this summer. It's been fun.
Yeah.
So,
well, Travis, I want to comment on that, and I want to commend you as a 2A advocate, not as an instructor, but as a 2A advocate. What you're doing, being available and amenable to showing people their first experiences, taking them under your wing and making sure they're safe with the right ammunition in a safe place. That's how we grow the 2A community. There is nothing more impactful than a regular, person like yourself, man or woman, who's willing to take someone to their first shots experience, if you will, and make it positive and a memorable experience. And it's those moments that change someone's perspective, where they see, oh, I can control this. I got this. It didn't blow up on my hand. It's not a grenade, and then those people then become the next gun owners. They become the next students of the gun, and then they teach their children. And so from the perspective of the Second Amendment being preserved for the next generations to come, I have to say, guys, it's really, really critical that we take every advantage to bring the non-gun owner with us, because that's the only way we're going to retain this right with the preservation that we have in our Constitution.
Hey, Gary, I want to get personal with you for just a little bit. I'm not a parent, but Gary, you are. What's been your approach with your kids with firearms? Have they been comfortable with going to the range with you? Have you kind of made it a priority to make sure they understand firearms or own a firearm? What's it been for you being a dad, Gary?
Well, in my daughter's case, strangely enough, it was because of my daughter that I ended up buying my first handgun. Because in 2015, I believe it was, she had an interest, and she expressed to me that she wanted to buy a gun and she wanted some help. And I knew nothing about them. So I had to get online and look stuff up real quick and kind of learn stuff with her. I went to the range with her the first time she shot it. And when she let me shoot it, that was, okay, I need one too, And so it wasn't me trying to teach her anything. We kind of took the steps together, which, my daughter's older. She's 35. She's not young. So, well, if she's watching, she'll probably hate me now. But,
well, we don't want you to get that personal, Gary, but still, yeah. So it's interesting that kind of brought you into the community, and then you discover what's online, and those of us that are online, and you've got like-minded friends, and this is kind of what it's turned into,
Yeah, I wouldn't have a gun channel or be a handgun owner or, concealed carry or anything else if it wasn't for my daughter. So
it's cool.
That's awesome.
And Hillbilly Up, what about you, man? How's it been for your family? I know you've grown up with firearms and stuff. What's it been with your kids, teaching them firearm safety? Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, on the flip side of that, we've always, my family, father, grandparents, everybody, we've always been like hunters and, hunting and all that stuff. Even, just target practicing, shooting skeet. That was a big deal for us.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So I grew up, in a home that had firearms, and, we were taught to respect them and all that stuff. And then, of course, I had 3 daughters, and I brought them up just the same way. And so, they were deer hunting, down here we have what we call a youth hunt or whatever and stuff. So they were even deer hunting, for youth hunts and stuff at a young age. But it was them knowing, teaching them how to respect and, a firearm and what it's for. That was the approach I used anytime they had questions or, any of that stuff, we go out and shoot the guns or whatever, and so for me, it was way better than them being curious or something, even though the firearms were locked up, but it is a really good deal. And so now I have granddaughters that's youth hunting now. So
got to go start off with those little crickets. Got to get those little cricket rifles, right? Those little single shot ones. Yep. There you go. Oh man. Yeah. And then, for me, what was interesting is when I was born after the cutoff date, for Nebraska for hunter safety, I was required to take hunter safety in order to go on my first deer hunt. And I didn't know this. I didn't grow up in a hunting family. So when I went to go get my deer permit, the guy at Walmart goes, "Well, I need to see your hunter safety card." I go, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "You got to take hunter safety." I'm like, "Bro, I'm 35 years old." He's like, "No, you got to take hunter safety. You were born after, I think at that time, I think if you were born after January of 77. I go, "Where am I going to take hunter safety?" I go, "I got a whole closet full of guns." He's like, "You need hunter safety." And I was like, "Oh my God." So I ended up taking it I'm an educator. I ended up taking it with students that were like a third my age. But what's funny is their parents took the class with them. Some of the dads were there with them too. So you talk about people taking refresher courses. It's cool when it's a family affair, so to speak. I thought that was really cool to see that because I didn't grow up in a hunting. We had farms in the home, but we weren't a hunting family. That's something I got to later on when I moved to a place where I could enjoy it. So yeah, it's just kind of a weird experience, but it's just kind of funny how you get pulled into these things. So Trish, some questions for you then. We're talking about Incendio itself. Without revealing too many of your secrets, what are some of the drills and activities that you like to do or that your students find the most challenging or enjoyable? Because it's always the activities you do when you take these classes that I enjoy the most because they're so different than just shooting at a bullseye all day. So what are some of the things that you do that students say they enjoy the most?
So most folks that I have trained have talked about the shooting while moving.
Yeah.
So dynamic fire, so target acquisition, shooting from behind cover. It's great to hit a bullseye over and over again when you're in your standard isosceles or modified lever stance and nothing is happening. But some of the ranges I have dynamic targets that move towards you. So they're shoot scenarios. I integrate that into my concealed carry class actually. And so what's interesting is, you're starting at 1 yard all the way up to 7. Most people have fairly reasonable groupings. There were a couple times where I've had some precision pistol folks and, their grouping is totally tight up into 7 yards. And then I put them into the conditional scenario where the target's coming at them at speed and they have to, yell at them and tell them to stop, stay back. And they have to stop shooting when the target stops moving. So there's some decision making there. Oh and then we bring the target in and it looks like crap.
Oh yeah. They get all upset about it.
And all of a sudden they're like, "What happened? Did I have a malfunction?" I said, no, that's where you are, babe. That's your standard of performance under a moderate amount of stress. Oh yeah. So let's talk about what we need to do to help you feel more confident when it actually does happen. And so that actually generates more business, which is great. I am proud to say I'm an advanced defensive pistol craft instructor certified by Range Masters. Tom Givens is an absolutely fantastic instructor. I spend, I'd say maybe 25% of my profit as an instructor on my own training. So
I was going to say, where do you go from here now that you've already got that level? Are you still able to learn? What do you do
absolutely.
To learn?
Always learning. There's fantastic opportunities. So I'm taking a defensive AR class with John next week. We'll be doing that together. Yeah.
Now, when you're done with that, will that leave you certified to teach the classes? Is
correct?
That okay? Good. So I'll be taking it with John as soon as he's done with that, or with you, whoever, or if you guys co-teach or whatnot. That'll be awesome.
And then I'm heading down to Branson in August for 4 days of Armed Women Leadership Conference, which will be just nose to the grindstone learning, education, and range time. And then after that, I'll be going to DC for a shorter class with the NRA. And the next year I'm signed up for TAC on again. So again, it's really important that your instructor stays current with new techniques, new strategies, new firearms, right?
Yeah, definitely.
It's really good to know your gear. And so one of the things that I love about going to other classes is what are other instructors carrying? What's their holster? What's their belt? What's their setup? Because I deal with all types of students from all shapes and sizes. Mm-hmm. And, sometimes appendix carry is not going to work if you can't find your appendix.
Well, the hardest question to answer. Yeah. The hardest question to answer is what holster should I get? I get that question as a YouTuber. I get that question all the time, well, I got this gun. What brand of holster? It's like, well, how can you carry? How are you allowed to carry according to your law? Right. What is your, and I hate, it's like 20 questions with these people, but I can't just say, well, just go buy this paddle holster and you're ready to go. Cause it might be a nightmare for them,
100%. I like to think of myself more as a matchmaker. So
yeah, there you go. Yeah.
find out about you, what you need, how you're going to carry, how you're going to dress, and those kinds of things, and then help you narrow it down. But you've got to try it before you buy it. Or you're just going to have a drawer like many of us with holsters that did not work.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Now, when it comes to this training, I mean, I enjoy shooting as a recreational activity, and I was a competitive shooter in college, and I enjoy like the drills and the fun stuff and the activities. There are a lot of people that say that training can be a waste of money. What is your opinion about that? I mean, is it on the person because they took something that's never going to apply to what they need to do in the real world? What is your thought on spending money on training as a trainer? Obviously, you don't want to downgrade anything that you do, because I found training to be very beneficial for myself.
Yeah.
What is it? What is it? Yeah. Yeah.
First and foremost, make sure you know what you're getting. First, so what is your instructor's philosophy about education and training? How much do they invest in themselves getting trained and educated? What is their background? Are they particularly tuned into your type of student? Meaning, if you're someone who's just beginning your journey, do you want to go into the total tactical, advanced super macho arena that might be provided
CQB,
by
shoot house, run and gun stuff,
awesome training organization that might not be right for you.
Yeah.
But there's always something good in training, frankly. Every physical skill that you have atrophies if you don't use it. And you would be surprised at how quickly you're not as good as you were the last time you were at the range. A good instructor is going to give you homework. It's going to give you things to take home with you, so that what you learned over that 1 day or 3 day or 5 days isn't lost. So you should be walking away with a manual that describes the drills, the purpose of the drills, what is the kinesthetic reasoning behind it. And if you're not answering the why to your students, then you are breaking the first rule of adult learning, which is, why are you having me do this?
Yeah.
So like I'll work people through, refined shooting, distance shooting, target acquisition, and different drills, because they serve a very, very specific purpose. And when I say that my curriculum is objectives based, you receive the objectives. You will understand exactly why you're doing what you're doing and how your performance makes a difference to your particular journey. If your journey is to be a marksman, well, then that's what the objectives are going to focus on. Yeah. If you want to be able to confidently hit center mass at distance, under low light conditions, under stress, well, then the training has to support those performance expectations.
I'm just going to say, because we're all human beings and because we're all different physiologically speaking, I think you should do training so you know what your limitations are. For me, it's going to be vision with astigmatism. There's certain things that are difficult for me to use physically. I mean, I think that you should, just so you know what you're capable of if you ever need to use that firearm. Are you shaky? Do you have breathing issues physically? So I just think it's good for you to know what your limitations are. I really think that's one of the, because like if you go through an 8-hour class and you are exhausted when you get done, that might be a wake up call that you need to take better care of yourself.
Sure. Right.
Like, yeah.
In the defensive shooting realm, I talk about pace and distance. So what is your pace or your tempo, and what is your distance that you're effective at? And so like when we talk about shoot, don't shoot scenarios, and, if someone is at you at distance, like when do you decide that the threat has reached the lawful, level of defending yourself, but also when are you going to be successful in stopping the threat? And that might be delaying your shot until they become close enough to where you can hit them. It's one thing you hit a dark alley with no way out, and at the end of the alley is a guy with a machete. Are you going to take the 75-foot shot, or are you going to wait till they're within 25 feet? It depends. What have you trained to?
And I think the more you take those classes, the more you think about the scenario. What do you want to get involved with? Or is this a situation where you need to intervene? It really makes you, after getting my carry permit, I was so much more conscious about, I've got a tool on me now, a very powerful tool that I want to make sure I don't do anything stupid with it. So you're also very, whether it's just how you are around other people or not getting hot-headed with somebody, obviously not consuming alcohol while carrying. I mean, there's a lot of responsibility that comes with carrying a firearm. And I just hope, especially for Nebraskans, that they keep all that in consideration when if they decide to carry, when that date kicks around, the people decide to start doing it without training,
Yeah. Well, and that's another part of it too, is we have formed, right now it's a moderate sized group, but it does extend not entirely across Nebraska, but there are training organizations and individual instructors who have sort of signed the pledge that at least a few times a year they'll offer free hands-on training.
Yeah.
It's one thing for NFOA to create the online learning where you're learning all the knowledge and subject matter stuff. If you don't have a chance to go hands-on, you're really losing out, from a safety perspective, performance perspective, and confidence perspective. So that confidence, which for those of us who, train in the defensive pistol craft, kind of creates an aura, right? Of cool, calm, collected, and yet slightly dangerous, right?
Yeah.
That you can't put your finger on it. And when it comes to violent criminal actors and the selection criteria they use for who their victim will be, there's obviously those who can be ambushed, but there's also those who put off you might not want to mess with her or him. There's something about them that gives them the heebie-jeebies.
Oh, definitely. Absolutely. Kevin June says, Travis, this is why I highly recommend competition for all shooters. Steel Challenge is a good place to start. Yeah, the more you go to the range and the more you shoot, and if you do it under competition conditions, I mean that whole idea of manipulating a firearm, under duress, I mean, and being comfortable with your gear, knowing your equipment, I think all those things all go along with being a responsible firearms owner. Tricia, are you a competitive shooter now? Do you have time for that, or
I do a little bit of it? Yes.
All right.
I was the lead instructor for Frontier Justice for a long time, which meant all my spare time was taken to training. And I recently resigned. I love them to death. Great organization. But I have some other initiatives that are going to take up my time. But one of those initiatives was time for myself. So I made that a goal.
Yeah.
And so I got into the top 10 of the most recent veteran shoot. Held my own against all the guys, which was, good for me.
That's awesome.
But competition is fantastic. There is something about the people who compete that I really want to take a moment to say. For those who have never competed before, do not be intimidated by going to a competition. Once the other competitors find out you're new to this, you will have more than enough support. People walking you through the drills, helping you understand the rules.
Yeah.
And just they want to bring you in. They are gun owners are just the best people on the planet, but competitors even more so because they want more competitors in the competition. And I think that's fantastic.
And maybe it's just a Nebraska nice thing. It's like the vast majority of people I run into at the range you don't even know this person. You just strike up a conversation and start talking about stuff, Usually starts off with the weather and it's like, oh, what you shooting over there? Oh, what do you think of this ammo? Hey, what do you think about the Unicam? It's amazing. And maybe that's just kind of how Nebraskans are. But I'm just saying that the vast majority of the encounters, especially like I told you, I took the 2 gals to the range yesterday, and there were 2 guys there that I didn't even know. They actually recognized me from my YouTube channel, but they started talking to ladies about how much shooting they've done, and check out, this is what we're shooting, and they were very patient with us while we were shooting. It was a great experience, and I think it really kind of changed their mind about what happens at a gun range, and what you run into. So it really is a completely different experience for a lot of people.
Yeah. So that's why I always have an open invitation for anyone who's neutral or anti-Second Amendment, anti-gun. I am availing myself to them at any time to spend some time with them, show them what they might be missing or misunderstanding, and take them to the range. And, you can change hearts and minds by not forcing it down someone's throat. Right. But still being a good representative and a role model of the 2A community. And what I have found, interestingly, is there's a lot of change happening. So where you were talking about people who've never owned a gun before, people are motivated for different reasons, politics being one, social concern about safety,
that tends to be the big one I run into. A lot of single moms, and
we had more gun sales in 2020. It broke records, and 40% of that record year were brand new gun owners who had never owned a gun before.
Yep.
I will tell you, I've never been more busy than 2020. I was working 6 nights a week easily, most weekends with brand new shooters. It was amazing. So hoping to continue to grow the 2A community through education and training and through the work with NFOA.
That's awesome. And when you guys had when I was listening to the testimony and you had said, NFOA is working with ranges that will offer free training for people. That was the coolest thing to hear, that it was all across the state, not just in Lincoln and Omaha, but all the way out in the Panhandle, all the way up in the north and the south. There's going to be ranges that are on board with pledging to offer this training. And I think that's a really good thing, because it reassures a lot of people that, we're going to have educated firearms owners out there, which is what I hope happens once everything kicks off in September. So I know that Netflix could probably make an entire season out of LB77. I'm hoping it happens. I don't know who's going to portray you as an actress. You can just portray yourself, but take us through, if you could, just kind of a summary of what did it take to get LB77 to pass from beginning to end. So why don't we start with last season, where we got shot down and then we got together and said, we're going to make it happen. So what was going on?
I will tell you this. Last season we got shut down, but last season's shutdown was due to, 5 years prior. So things in the unicameral, we have one house, if you will, of senators, and the Nebraskans are the second house. I like to think of ourselves as the first house, because really we're the reason they exist.
Oh, this is true.
Getting good legislation through on any topic is difficult that way.
Very slow process.
We had a slow rolling momentum that grew over time, starting with just trying to get, small bills passed, like standardized signage, those kinds of things. But the biggest thing that I will say that helped us was the red flag bill. So thank you, Senator Moorfeld. You were the reason why LB 77 passed. No, I'm kidding. He's not. But I'll tell you this. So the red flag bill and an assault weapons ban. NFOA had been doing a tremendous amount of grassroots efforts. There had been movement with Second Amendment sanctuary counties beginning. That started to take fruit. And our calls to action and education resulted in the largest hearing in Nebraska history on a bill. It was an anti-2A bill, but it was fabulous. There were hundreds and hundreds of people from all walks of life and backgrounds showing up to the unicameral to make their voices heard. And it was where, when I talk about it with John, it was like a sleeping giant in Nebraska had woken up and realized that you just can't sit back and think that the Second Amendment of the U.S. Constitution and Article 1 of Section 1 of our Nebraska Constitution.
Our state constitution even has it in there,
Yeah, explicitly so. So I would say that's what happened. So last year, politics happened. Politics, people wanting to get reelected, people making promises, people taking money. It's the standard stuff. And some people broke their word, and I won't name who they are. Some of them are no longer elected, but some of them had made ongoing promises about their position on 2A, work, and they fell flat. So now we never take a loss. We look at a loss as a win. When we lose, it means that all the cards are on the table and we know where everyone's position is and we have them on the record. And so we use that to help actually elect better senators to the state capitol. We worked with the Nebraska GOP. We reached out to the Democratic Party, but they don't tend to want to talk to us. The Libertarian Party in Nebraska, fantastic.
You're welcome.
Love them.
The
NRA, the grassroots representative for the NRA, we worked with him very closely. Gun Owners of America, which come in and come out of Nebraska, kind of like when the winds change. For us, it didn't matter who got the win, credit or, we didn't care. We're Nebraskans for Nebraskans. And we decided that we were going to just basically open up the vault into every possible way. So we had town hall meetings. We went and did speaking engagements, tons of newsletters, like you said, got on the news, got on the radio, got on podcasts, and we just grinded it. And Senator Brewer did a fantastic job of applying lessons learned from the previous session, and he executed excellence. He was a spear, and he navigated all the bureaucracy and BS that happens at the unicameral and got 26 original signers to say, yes, we're for this bill, which is rare to have that many sponsors from the beginning. Most people like to throw their name in as soon as they see something's gaining positive momentum. Like I was for it from the beginning when they weren't. So those men and women put their names on that bill. because they truly believe in our constitutional rights and representative government. And phone calls, letters, visits. Nebraska woke up and went to
Nebraskans
the
got
state
vocal.
capitol.
Yeah,
it's fantastic.
That's awesome.
And it was still hard because we had the most bizarre year this year. If you watched any of our elected officials trying to get anything passed, some fascinating people have been elected to office with a fantastically interesting mindset. And so that was challenging because we were getting filibustered on everything. But the thing that's interesting is that particular person thinks they're very, very smart. But they're not as smart as they think they are. And the rest of Nebraska is far smarter when we work together. So we worked together, and there were some amazing strategies down on the floor of the House, and everything from, the speaker to the way that debate happened, the way things were scheduled. And so there was some 4D chess that was happening.
Okay.
And we knew that if we got LB 77 passed, that literally, to me, like this huge stone gate that takes like horses and ropes to like open was going to open. And we're going to leverage the win going forward in the next session as well.
Oh, that's awesome. That'll be season 2 on Netflix. Yeah, there you go.
Yes.
It'll be 78. No. So constitutional carry, it's going to kick in Nebraska, permitless carry. What are going to be some of the advantages of getting or keeping your carry permit that you've paid for and taking the classes for? Because me as a somebody who has a carry permit, I'm going to keep renewing it because I've already gone through it. What are some of the advantages to somebody instead of letting it lapse? And just, what do you think?
Well, first and foremost, it is a sign of a training education that shows that you applied yourself, taking an extra step to make sure that you have that credential, which has a lot of weight. It has a lot of weight when you interact with law enforcement, right? And some of the benefits I have seen is, maybe getting a warning instead of a ticket because, I may have been going a little fast. But more importantly, people who pursue a permit actually are considered creme de la creme in society. We, as a group of people, commit less crime than law enforcement nationwide. But more importantly, you're going to have knowledge about how the law is going to view your use of that tool in a self-defense situation. You're going to be able to proactively avoid situations well in advance of a defensive situation happening, which is so much better than actually having to use your firearm. You're going to feel more confident and equipped. The other thing that happens with constitutional carry is courses and instructors and ranges change, meaning our price structure will change. We're going to want to engage more clients who are less likely to take the training now that they don't have to. And so those barriers that were financial that existed and that we testified about, so many men and women who just simply couldn't afford to take the day to take the class, to pay for the class, to pay for the ammunition for the class, and then to pay for the time off to drive to go to your appointment, to then give the state $100 to do a background check, which is instantaneous, in order to wait 45 to 60 days to get this permit. So those financial barriers are going to be far more reduced. There is reciprocity still. So reciprocity means that a state that you're traveling to recognizes the Nebraska permit. There are 8 states that do not have constitutional carry that recognize the Nebraska permit. So if you like to travel, up and down the Midwest, East Coast, not so much if you hit the Northeast, but the West Coast, you might have to avoid. But reciprocity matters. The other part of it is like when you actually have to defend yourself, the way the prosecutors are going to view your decision-making, your ability to articulate what you did was reasonable and lawful and legal and justifiable is much stronger when you have a permit than if you've had no training whatsoever.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that right there, there's your reasons, guys. If you're kind of curious whether or not you should let it lapse or whether or not you should get it. I think, and then also just to have that section again about the laws, you spend a lot of time on the laws in Nebraska and being able to ask those questions and then also getting the shooting practice and so on. And it's also just a reminder to me having that in my wallet every time I open it and seeing it. It's a reminder that I need to be responsible with my firearm. It's you want to take the higher road when it comes to certain situations. You want to, like you said, a lot of the just learning how to manage the situations and be responsible. I think that's a big part of it too.
Yeah.
So
I think also the permit to purchase, the firearm purchase certificate requirement, given that the CHP lasts for 5 years versus that only lasts for 3.
Yeah.
It comes in a card format. You don't have to get it laminated. So some folks are even going to renew just for that reason.
Yeah.
But really it's knowledge of the law and being able to say you're truly a law-abiding citizen.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Hey, Gary, do you have any questions right now at all for Trish? Because I'm going into our question number 10. Anything you'd like to ask or anything you're kind of curious about at all that's kind of come to mind?
No, I don't think so. I'm just paying attention and learning.
All right. And then Hillbilly, what about you? Let's see who's out there. There
you said it again, buddy. It's cutting out on me.
Oh, no. Do you have any questions at all for Trish? I just have one more question for her. And then you comment anything you'd like to ask her at all or anything you're kind of curious about in the discussion that we've had?
No, it's a great discussion, and she's really covered everything really great. It's awesome what you're doing. I mean, I'm just very excited to hear about, the steps that you're making and people you're reaching. And it's always so great to have a place for people to come and learn. And like you said, I really thought that was great that you said, I even welcome people that might be against guns, and because so many of them might start out that way and they're like, oh, this ain't as bad as what I thought it was, And so it's just an awesome thing you got going on there. I really appreciate it, what you're doing.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
So then the question I always ask my guests is, what is your preferred carry firearm? Was there something that you just absolutely love to shoot that you're most comfortable with? And because I always tell the people that I train that shoot with me, like anybody that goes to the range with me, I'm like, no gun is just 100% comfortable to shoot all the time. Like it's always gonna be something about it that. But what do you love to shoot? Do you have just a preference at all, or what?
I do. So I evolved from the Beretta. So that's what I knew in the Air Force.
I was wondering what you took when you were in the Air Force. Yeah, what you trained with.
Many moons ago.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the best concealed carry gun, right?
Yeah.
But you don't know that in the beginning.
Yeah.
And then I did Springfield for a while.
Okay.
And then I had to abandon them because they made me upset. But you know what I mean.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And so then I went to SIG 365 XL for a while.
Okay.
And then I found staccato. And so
are you like yeah, go ahead.
You cannot be a really awesome shooter just by buying a really expensive gun. Guns can help some, but they don't. You cannot overcompensate by just buying something fantastic if you do not have absolutely fundamentally the fundamentals in shooting.
Oh yeah, I agree totally. Yeah.
However, so I shot really, really awesome with my SIGs. I had, for competition, I had a Legion. For CHP, I had my XL and loved it. Very, very proud of my ability to shoot and could walk with confidence no matter where I went. I had a competition and I wasn't able to take my firearm to that competition. It happened to be at Frontier Justice and they had a staccato for rent. And I'm like, okay, I'll just grab it. I didn't even know what it was.
You're like, wow, this is nice.
Yeah, okay, this is good, whatever. But what it feels like in your hand versus what it does on the range can be two different things. So we actually had a fairly harsh competition. It was very dynamic, fast, and longer distances. And I kicked its butt. I was like, wow, that was awesome. What if, I'm doing really good and, whatever. I didn't think about the gun helping at all until the next competition. I'm like, let me try that gun again. So I did it, used it again. And there was measurable difference. Yeah. Not horrifically, but, when we're talking about trying to hit little tiny, little pinprick bullseyes and consistently. So how it worked with my hand and where that trigger happened and that trigger reset, it was like kismet. It was perfect. I said, this is the most awesome gun ever for me. Right. And then I was like, oh, how much is it? And that's when I got a fifth job.
10 easy installments of $500,
yeah. And then
start. No, I'm just kidding. They're not that. So, they can get that expensive, but yeah.
Yeah. So I got it. And then for Christmas that year, I told my family, I said, I need extra magazines for the staccato. I had no idea how much the extra magazines cost. So my
I can't even-
family, I only got 4 staccato magazines. Everyone else had a bunch of presents, and I had 4.
You just had 4
That was
little
it.
shaped
Uh-huh.
boxes, like 4 little Pop-Tart boxes, you know?
Yeah, no
Here.
problem though.
Yeah.
Very happy with it. But yeah, I like the staccato C2. That's
Okay.
what I carry. I'm not a small person, so even though it's a moderately larger frame, it's not have no issues concealing it with the normal way I wear my clothing and the
Mhm.
way I like to carry. So
That's cool.
really like it.
For me, it's it's not my carry gun, but I love my CZ Shadow too.
Mhm.
Anybody that's ever gone with me to the range, like a beginning shooter, whenever you put that in their hands, then suddenly the group's just like,
Yeah.
suddenly everything's on paper, everything's centered. They're like,
Mhm.
wow, this gun's great. It's like,
Yeah.
well, you're gonna pay for
There's
it.
a lot
but-
of engineering magic that's happening, and then just the weight
Yeah.
is
just
fantastic.
flat shooting and the way the
Yeah.
slide, they're fascinated with how the slide's integrated into the frame. And
Mhm.
that's like that's one of my bucket list guns. The older I get, I don't know about you, but I'm buying bucket list guns now because I'm like, you know what? I just want to enjoy these now while I can.
Yeah.
So that's part of it. So staccato might have to bump up on the list here. So yep. Sounds
It
good.
is a good choice. Yeah.
Yeah. Gary, what about you? What's your preferred carry piece? What do you like?
Depends on the time of year and what I'm wearing. Generally, I carry a SIG P365 most of the time, but in the summertime when I'm wearing shorts, oftentimes I'm pocket carrying a Ruger LCR.
Okay.
Because it's
LCR.
lightweight and fits
Yeah.
in a pocket well, and
Yeah.
so it varies.
Gotcha. I'll talk about mine here in a sec. Okay, and then Hillbilly, what about you? What's your preferred carry?
Oh man, I'm kind of like Gary. It depends on what I'm wearing when I walk out the door or what I'm doing. It can range if we're out riding four-wheelers or something like that. I'll take my lightweight Kel-Tec PMR 30, M&P Shield. Sometimes I just like throwing that Smith & Wesson long barrel revolver, Yeah. So it kind of depends on what I'm doing, but
kind of funny how we, men accessorize for the weather conditions and the venue. It's like you've got your whole, bank of firearms to choose from. Yeah.
Exactly.
Gotcha. I see. For me, it's pretty much a P365, or like Gary, if I've got like basketball shorts on or whatever, it's my little LCP Max 380, which I love it, but my God, the thing is so hard to shoot well. It's just I always have to practice with it. But then like in the wintertime, if it's Nebraska 6 months out of the year, we're freezing, so I do usually have something like a full size pistol on the outside. So question for you from Trish, question for you from Sandhills Media from John. What
Mhm.
holster do you use with your staccato, or which holsters do you use? What do you prefer?
So I actually have 2. One I got from Staccato directly.
Oh, okay.
Inside the waistband, with a nice angle, nice wedge. And then I got a custom one made.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah. So that's really, really important when you look through all the different options for holsters, thinking about your body type, where you're going to carry, and comfort, right? You want to have something that makes you want to carry every day. You don't want that to be an obstacle. Like it's so uncomfortable. Like I think you were talking about summertime versus wintertime.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
and,
definitely.
and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So for me, consistency in my gear is really important. I used to change out guns based on winter and summer.
Yeah.
But then your draw is different, and there's other aspects to that. So I'm all about consistency. So right now, I've evolved into just carrying it with the custom one I got, because the way it's built, it has some what I call Trish features, so that I don't have chafing. I don't have any, hot spots on my belly.
Yeah.
When I sit, the last thing you want is for your muzzle to dig into your leg and those kinds of things. So it has some features that kind of surround the interior of the holster to protect my skin.
Yeah, and that's, making sure that you can even get a holster for that gun, because sometimes I'll be looking at gun deals. There might be some weird manufacturer or some gun that's out there that's really cheap, but then you look and there's no holsters available for it. It's like, well, if I can't even, or if I got to go buy some universal that might work with it okay, but isn't made for it, it's like, do I really want to buy that gun? And then also like you said with hot spots, the textures, the aggressive stippling and textures on a lot of guns. You can say, well, you can get used to it. No, try wearing something on a hot day when you're sweaty with that. you're going to be raw by the time you get done at the
Oh
end
yeah.
of the day. It's because of the texture on a lot of those guns.
Mhm.
It is pretty abrasive, and it's, you want to be
Yeah.
comfortable. You don't want to
Mhm.
not carry because you're uncomfortable, and that kind of defeats the whole purpose of doing what you do. So
100%. When I did that range masters class, there was no way I would have been able to do it without that custom holster, because it was like, 4-5 hours on the range every day for 5 days.
Mhm.
So I would have had to change my carry location just to not have, injuries.
Yeah. Well, and these holsters are not cheap. You're spending up to upwards of $100 on one, depending on what you want to go with. And then you got to return it if you don't like it. There's the return shipping, and there's the hassle of you just want something that's going to work
Yeah.
best for you. So yeah. All these things you run into when you become a gun owner, you don't ever take into consideration. So
Oh yeah,
let's
whole new
see.
world.
Kevin says that the Shadow 2 is hard to beat. Staccatos in Georgetown. They're made in Texas, I believe. That's the next town up for me. I've been meaning to check it out. There you go, Kevin. Kevin, if you get one, I'll get one. There we go. Now I got an excuse to get one. So there we go.
Well, I'll
All
have to go
right.
to Texas and go visit.
Yeah, there you go. Go take a little factory tour. So see
That
where
would
it's
be
made.
awesome.
Yeah. All right. So last question I got for you. What is the future of Incendio Firearms Training?
So
do you wanna take
obviously, I'm kind of Midwest. I'm here out in eastern Nebraska, western Iowa. So I'm going into defense contracting. What? Yes, Trisha's
You're an
going to
operator
defense
now,
contracting.
man. You're an operator.
Yeah. So
There
what
you
does that
go.
mean? So there are government agencies that need training who
Imagine that.
want to have areas of expertise that I have with regards to teaching women, overcoming the psychology of performance and those kinds of things. So this is sort of a niche market in defense contracting. But yeah, I'm going through the process right now to get registered. So I will be, what do they call it? A small business, women-owned, disabled, veteran, minority-owned small business. So I'm kind of the unicorn in defense contracting.
Dang. There you go.
Yeah. And so, writing curriculum, writing training plans, certifying instructors in the Incendio way, I guess.
Okay.
Is what's next.
Well, that's awesome. So you got a lot to work on coming up. So that's great.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. All right. Well, I think we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Do you have anything you'd like to add at all, Trish, that we haven't covered, or anything I'd mentioned yet? Or
well, it was just an absolute pleasure to be on with you today and to share time with your listeners and really, really advocate for the Nebraska Firearm Owners Association. So thank you so much for your support of us and getting the word out. Again, membership is free. We have a great event coming up October 14th. So stay tuned, watching our YouTube channel and our Facebook. It's going to be our annual meeting, which is just a great opportunity to meet other gun owners who care about the Second Amendment and have fun while doing so.
Well, that's cool. I will definitely try to be there. That sounds exciting. Good stuff.
Awesome.
Good stuff. All right. Gary, anything you want to say before we go, bud? You want to go ahead and plug your channel or get the word out there about your podcast? Anything for Trish or all of it?
Well, let's see. First off, on my channel, I've got the Foul Territory Friday nights. That's 9 p.m. Central. Love to have everybody there. Everybody's welcome. We talk 2A and firearms for the first half. Then we have a little bit of a prize drawing and give away some swag. And then we show viewer pictures. Sometimes they send memes. Sometimes they send pictures of their guns or their cats or whatever,
Guns and cats.
As long as it's fit to be put on the screen, we'll put it on a screen and talk about it. And so we just have fun for a couple hours every Friday night. So I've enjoyed listening to this. I've learned a lot, and it's a good time to be in Nebraska, I suppose. So good for all of you.
We could just eliminate that border between Nebraska and Kansas and just make Nebraskas or something like that. Just eliminate that. Remember, I've always talked about having the United States a tornado alley. That could be the beginning part of it right there. So,
well, it's like I told you last year, up until last year when I was 62 years old, and I've lived here all my life. First time I'd ever been in the state of Nebraska was last year. And now I'm making that trip every year. I don't have any problem crossing that border. It's going to be even sweeter now. So.
There you go. So, Trish, what it is that Thunder on the Prairie event that we have in Nebraska Shooters. Our little get together of YouTubers, and anybody's invited, but it's mainly for YouTubers to have a chance to film on the range and do some shooting. I got a chance to do some filming for Giz or Gary. It was awesome just to get to see everybody and hang out, and we're doing it again next year. So first weekend in June. So good stuff. So there we go.
You should come join us.
Trish, you could bring that staccato and just let me borrow it for a couple hours. That'd be cool.
Absolutely.
Promise I'll clean it. I'll make a cleaning video on it and then I'll give it back. So
perfect.
There we go. All right. So Gary, I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. Hillbilly Up, American Hillbilly. You want to go and give us a plug for your podcast? You got a wonderful little podcast that you have out there. What's that called? What's that all about?
Guns, Beer, and Therapy.
Absolutely. Those are
yeah, we like to have a lot of fun and just have a good time. That's what it's all about. We'll talk anything from guns to, tennis shoes to Jiffy cornbread mix. It just don't matter,
Favorite Jiffy cornbread recipes. Yeah, don't get gun people talking food because then it's just a rabbit hole of discussion. It's if I could get those hours of my life back that I stayed in debate whether or not a hot dog is a sandwich or not, my life would just be so much better. So it's the weirdest stuff we get into on these podcasts. But what's cool is, Gary's podcast and Hillbilly's podcast, a lot of the same folks kind of bounce between both shows and are in our community. Yeah.
Yeah. DJ Play Nice was actually on this last Saturday, and we got into great music discussion, music and stuff. So, it's just kind of all over the place. We like to have fun, and it's every Saturday evening at 9:00 Central.
Awesome.
The time zone that matters to us here in the Central anyhow.
That's right. We don't even tell them. We don't even mention what the East Coast time is if you want to listen. We just let them figure that out on their own. So if they're not there, that's fine. It doesn't bother us.
Yeah. And also we're doing a fundraiser for a fellow YouTube for his wife that's sick, not feeling good. And so I'll be putting out another video here probably tomorrow or the next day. It'll be coming out. Mm-hmm. And we raise a certain amount of money for that person. Then I will be drinking a hard seltzer on my live that's coming Saturday night, which I'm really dreading. I mean, but it's all for a good cause.
So Trish, one of Hillbilly's big draws, one of his audiences, we're not hard seltzer fans. We're grown men. We don't drink hard seltzer. And so if you do, that's fine. You do you. So Hillbilly usually eliminates hard seltzer cans one at a time with like a Ruger 1022 or a High Point carbine. That's kind of his that's his thing. So if they raise enough money, he's going to consume a hard seltzer. And I don't know if I can even watch that. I mean, just the thought that's up there with IPAs. If you want something that tastes like a Christmas tree, you go right ahead. What's that?
I honor your sacrifice.
More than one.
He's definitely going to take one for the team.
Yeah, they talked me in now that was a minimum of $200 that I would drink one. Yeah. And they kept rising me. So now it's for every $200 raised, I'm going to drink it.
Oh, my gosh.
And so, oh, my goodness.
Well, hey, it's awesome you're doing that to help out somebody in the community, and it definitely shows. Even though we're all over the place, in this country, we're all kind of in it for the same cause, and we're all kind of looking out for each other. And I think that's cool. It's a unique bond that we have as gun owners, and people that care. So I think that's a good thing. So, all right. Okay. So I think we'll go ahead and wrap this one up. So let's give a shout out on the YouTube side. We got Gizzard Gary, Kevin June, Sandhills Media, Kristen the 740. Mike is out there. I'm out there. Let's see. Roll Call 219's watching this evening. My mom, Kim Williams, is out there also keeping me in check. Thanks, Mom. Let's see who else was out there. Tactical Fud was watching. 2 Live Mood. Defense Dad out there trying to get himself in trouble. And that's about it. But we will be posting this podcast all over Facebook, all over social media, so you guys can check it out. If you're just joining us, go back and watch it on the replay. It was a great conversation we had with Trish. And Trish, I'll go ahead and give you the final word before we go ahead and call it. Anything you want to say?
Well, I'm just really excited for Nebraska. September 2nd, LB 77 constitutional carry goes into effect. We are going to be trying to plan a celebratory event probably the weekend after. So stand by for that. Having some speakers for the folks who, help make this possible, have some refreshments, and have some lead down range. So stand by.
I like the sound of that. There we go. That's going to be awesome. I might just have to use that as an excuse to pick up a staccato before September 2nd. So, yep, there we go. It's been decided. This is going to be an expensive month. All right. Well, Trish, thanks for joining us. Appreciate you spending your time with us. And then, guys, make sure you check out incendiotraining.com, and you guys can head over there and look at the classes that Trish has to offer. And that catalog is going to be expanding, so there's lots of good stuff coming up. But we'll catch everybody next Monday. We'll have a couple more Monday episodes, and then after that, we'll probably go back to our favorite time of Saturday morning at 8 a.m. Central Time. And so that'll happen once work resumes for me in August. So I think that's it. I want to thank you guys for watching. Have fun. Be safe. Shout out to everybody that was watching today. Y'all take care. And we will talk to you soon.